guys, it's your girl Shanice. Wagwan. I am so happy to welcome you guys back into my kitchen another week so that we can chef it up together. In this video, I'll be showing you guys how to make some delicious meatballs with your own homemade sauce to go with it. Before we get into this recipe, please remember to hit that subscribe button along with that bell so you don't miss out on any of these amazing recipes each week. So let's get right into it. So I'm working with ground turkey, but you can use ground beef if you prefer. And I have 3 pounds here. I'm just going to use half of that. And the very first thing that I'm going to do is add an egg to my ground turkey. The egg here will be acting as a binder, so it's basically going to be holding our meat together so it does not fall apart. I'm also going to follow that up with 2 tablespoons of breadcrumbs. I'm using Italian style breadcrumbs, but you can use plain breadcrumbs. And then I'm going to add around 1/4 cup of heavy cream here. This is really optional, but I like the texture it gives to it. And then we're going to go ahead and season this baby. So I'm adding around 2 teaspoons of garlic powder followed by a teaspoon of black pepper. I'm also going to add a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and I'm also going to add a pinch of salt. And you guys can season your meat however you prefer. It doesn't have to be necessarily what I'm using. And I also got this really cool blend of herbs from my Italian store. It has like a Tuscany blend, a Sicilian blend, but I'm going to go ahead and use the Parmesan blend. It basically has like garlic, Parmesan cheese. It's very dope. So I'm adding around a teaspoon of that to it, and then I'm adding some oregano. This is just going to turn the flavor up a notch, and I'm just going to mix that in really well. Put a gloves on if you need to. You want to get the seasonings evenly distributed throughout your meat. You don't want to have your meatballs well seasoned at some parts and then some parts are really bland. So you can let your seasoned meat chill in the refrigerator for a little bit. I'm just going to set mine to the side while I go ahead and add some red bell peppers and some red onions to my NutriBullet. And I'm just going to blend like a puree with these vegetables to add to my turkey. And this is just going to give it some additional flavor. And I'm actually using half of a small red bell pepper and half of a small red onion. So I'll go ahead and add all the ingredients below like I always do. So let's go ahead and add that to it and just mix it in. And then I'm gonna get my pot nice and hot with some oil, and then we're gonna make our meatballs. And you can use whatever vegetables you prefer, whether it's scallions, some finely chopped onions. You don't have to blend it the way I did, but this is how I like to make my meatballs. Okay guys, go ahead and make your meatballs to the size you want them to be. You don't want them to be too small because they tend to dry out the smaller they are. Y'all don't come from my meatballs. They're not perfectly shaped, but they're flavorful, and that's all that matters. So I have around 3 tablespoons of avocado oil, nice and hot. I'm just adding 2 stalks of thyme to that just to give the oil some flavor. And then we're going to gently add our meatballs. We don't want to overcrowd the pot because we want to make sure that each meatball gets a nice sear. And I'm going to be sauteing my meatballs for around 6 to 8 minutes, turning it every 2 minutes on medium-high flame. We want to get a nice brown color. And if you want to check the temperature, the internal temperature should be around 160 degrees Fahrenheit, which is equivalent to around 71 degrees Celsius. And you could just stick your meatballs in the oven and allow them to bake. It does take a longer time, but it is healthier. You're not using as much oil as when you're sauteing them. And you could just broil them for around 2 to 3 minutes to get that nice brown color once you're finished baking them. So my meatballs are all finished. Now I'm adding my remaining red onions. Guys, maybe you want to finely chop yours instead of having them like mine. I'm just going to go ahead and saute these onions, and then I'm also going to add some minced garlic to that, around a tablespoon. And I recommend using fresh garlic. Fresher is always better. I went ahead and lowered my flame. We don't want to burn the garlic, and I'm just going to let it sit there while I get my sauce ready. So I have here 4 tomatoes that I roughly chopped. I'm also going to add my remaining bell peppers to that, and we're going to make a puree with this. We're going to make our own homemade marinara sauce. So I'm going to go ahead and blend that up, and then we're going to add it to our onions and garlic. And if you guys aren't up to doing all this, you can get already made marinara sauce, which is just as good. I mean, it's not fresh, but it's really delicious. Or you can buy canned tomato puree to skip this step if you want to make your own marinara sauce. So while my sauce is simmering, I'm going to go ahead and blend a few sun-dried tomatoes with some remaining puree that I have. And this is sweeter than regular tomatoes, so it's going to add a sweeter flavor to our sauce, and that's what we want. I'm also going to go ahead and season my sauce a little bit with my Parmesan Blend. I'm also adding around a teaspoon of garlic powder and black pepper, followed by a pinch of salt. So we're tasting as we're going along, just so we know how we should adjust the sauce. I'm also going to add some more oregano to my sauce, around a teaspoon as well. And I'm also going to add some Pinot Noir to my sauce, some red wine. You can skip this step. You don't have to go out your way to get wine if you don't have it. And I'm just going to give it a good little mix to ensure all the flavors combine together. And then I'm going to add around a tablespoon of brown sugar. And this is just to cut the level of acidity from the tomatoes we used. So the next thing I'm going to add here, guys, is some fresh basil. And I think this is very important in our sauce. This is just going to add so much more flavor to it. And if you only have dried basil, don't worry, go ahead and sprinkle that baby in. It's still better than nothing, and it's gonna give it the flavor we're looking for still. Don't worry about it. And I'm just gonna lower the flame and cover it and allow it to simmer. All the flavors are gonna combine. It's smelling so good, and I'm just gonna get some fresh Parmesan cheese prepared to add to it. And guys, for this recipe, I'm using fresh homemade pasta. So this dish is just gonna be delicious on a whole nother level. Like, if you know, you know. Fresh pasta is everything, okay? And guys, our sauce is basically finished. I'm just sprinkling my cheese on top. You could go ahead and add your meatballs if you want them to be like directly in the sauce. I'm just placing mine on top because I want to be able to taste the meatballs without the sauce all over it. So go ahead and add your meatballs to it. You can cook it for like 5-10 more minutes on low in the sauce if that's what you want to do to get all the flavors in with the meatballs. But we're all finished, and this is how we're looking. It's smelling so delicious, guys. I'm telling you, you guys need to try this recipe, especially the sauce. But take a look at the pasta. Like, look at that texture. It's like looking so good. The consistency is so good. I really can't wait to dig into this right now. And I'm just adding my meatballs on top. As I said before, I don't like my meatballs like covered in the sauce. I want to be able to like taste everything individually. And you guys can use spaghetti if you prefer that with your meatballs, or even angel's hair. I'm using fettuccine pasta, obviously. It doesn't have to be what I'm using. And I'm gonna go ahead and add some more freshly grated Parmesan cheese. Listen, I love me some Parmesan cheese. Cheese, and more cheese for me. It's like when you go to an Italian restaurant and they're giving you fresh cheese and they're like, say when. I never tell them to stop. They always stop on their own. But that's really how much I love fresh cheese on my pasta. But this is how we're looking, guys. I had so much fun making this video. I hope you guys really enjoyed this recipe. And if you did, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. And thank you so much, guys, for watching. If you're new, guys, thank you so much for subscribing. I really do appreciate all the love I've been getting so far. If you have not yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, okay? And I also have a video up on how to make your own homemade Alfredo sauce. I'll go ahead and leave the link below along with the full ingredients list for this recipe. Thank you so much again for watching and for all the support. You guys stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!